So we have about like 7 minutes before people should finally start funneling in. But you guys have any like questions about APAC or how this town hall is going to go for the time being?
I think we're kind of covered on our bases. We looked at thank you so much for sending like that detailed like schedule of like, the doors open, we're going to have these presentations first and then open up the floor. I think that really helped us kind of get in our mindset of how long we should present for, because I believe it's 15 minutes divided in between the two of us, correct? Okay, so about 7 minutes each. Perfect.
How would you guys say that the campaign is going so far? I mean, you said that you're about to get t-shirts, so I'm sure that will definitely bring in a lot of people, especially when you have your partial proceeds. But yeah, feeling nervous, excited, just overwhelmed.
I'm excited. Overwhelmed. Yes, definitely. But also excited for sure. And yeah, I'm looking forward to our partial proceeds and hopefully a second partial proceeds with another group. So I think it'll be good. It's good because we'll get to do some good along the way, It at least, we won't have to wait till hopefully we get elected to do something good. We can do it in these 5 weeks.
Yeah, I think FSU and UF also already had their elections, so that was fun to watch. I mean, were you watching those races too?
So you're gonna think we're crazy. So before like this campaign and everything, we did notice like other state universities such as UF in Florida have had their elections, but we also so there's this one election in Auburn that was like it just popped up on our TikTok. It was the weirdest thing, and like they had a lot of like good outreach and a good message overall. There was 3 candidates running. The one we wanted to win did not win, unfortunately, but I think we've been trying to keep track of our friends across different universities and everything. I think Meg, we have a connection, I think, or we're starting to talk with some individuals. The party from FSU, you probably know the name of it more than I do.
No, but
You're good.
There's a party at FSU's been reaching out to us about like collaborating on our campaigns and kind of like feeding off of each other for ideas. And their party is like very, very focused on diversity. And we think that's something really important. And we want to work with them to kind of like meld our diversity platforms and kind of like get ideas from each other and see like how they've been implementing things over there. So we've started a connection there and we're going to start meeting with them regularly. So that's been pretty cool. But I don't know too much. It's very different how their whole election process goes at FSU and UF because they all have political parties. And it's like crazy here that we don't have that, but it's very interesting, the process. It makes things probably much more dramatic, because you're voting for not necessarily your friends, but a whole party, and you have like tickets formed and everything. So it's a little intense, but we're working with them just to kind of meld ideas and things.
I wanted to say welcome to Sheila, who's actually one of the newest APAC presidents, or vice president actually, of a new group. So hi, Sheila. I hope I didn't put you on the spot like that. But
hi, no, it's okay. Yeah, I didn't want to disturb you guys.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
I'm kind of talking about elections and student government across other universities. Were you talking about the Progress Party by any chance? Because I know that they had a.
I believe that's who it is. Yes, Progress FSU. They have like a purple dove type kind of logo. Yes.
Yeah. I actually spoke to the senator who had created that party without realizing that she was going to form a party. So definitely, I love that. I love their platform. And yeah, I think it'd be interesting to learn how each school does their elections, since, as you said, it's pretty unique to the school. I think that student government used to, like the one at UCF, used to have parties, but for whatever reason, it fell apart. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I know a lot of FGCU, UF, FSU, they have all adopted the party system. So I'm not terribly sure why it hasn't, either like regained speed or picked up any ground lately. I mean, that could be conversations for futures though, obviously.
Would you foresee that actually coming back to student government? Not to put you on the spot, just curious.
So I guess personally, not as a candidate or anything like that, just like my experience in like student government previously with the election commission, I think moving to the Senate election to the same time as the presidential election, you're kind of, already moving towards that a little bit. The question is whether or not they would make it official is up to Senate, of course. So potentially, I mean, I know that's a terrible answer. That's such a politician answer, but I'm really I guess kind of as they move forward, we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's hard to say, especially with the bureaucracy of, just student involvement. It's really hard to say what kind of changes will come. But yeah, I think that's interesting. Psac, I think you said you were interested in running for Senate, didn't you?
I am running.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yes.
Are you excited to turn in your stuff? It's March 1st, right?
I already turned it in.
Oh, you already turned it. Look at that. That's amazing. That's awesome.
I'm quite prepared, but I'm not sure because I'm a freshman. I'm unsure how to be effectively campaign, especially in COVID, and most of the health science student is not on campus to actually campaign. So, any idea?
Yeah, we can. Oh, Meg, do you have anything, or we can give you our phone numbers? We can talk after.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely, if you want to talk after, we can try to help you out. Sorry, I got delayed a little bit. I think my visual. Don't be scared. Don't just because you're a freshman, still go for it. 100%. Take every shot. Apply for everything. That's my best advice, and really go for it. I would say, put yourself out there. Start building up a platform maybe for yourself of ideas that you really want to make sure are implemented, and then you can start. If you are you have social media, you can start, not yet because it's not active campaigning yet, but kind of like making a plan of everything that you want to share in social media to really make sure that your platform is seen. And then think about how you're going to handle outreach. So are you going to visit RSOs to tell them about yourself and why they should vote for you? Are you going to stand outside and table? What kind of plan do you have for how you're going to make yourself present? Is it just putting things in group me's? Is it making announcements at the end of class? Things like that could all work. So but definitely, if you want to touch base, we would be happy to meet with you one-on-one.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, some more people are trickling in, so I will wait a little bit longer just so that all the people who are interested in coming can come today. Yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome to our town hall. If y'all don't know what APAC is, it is the Asian Pacific American Coalition. We often work with our affiliate presidents to collaborate together, bring more awareness into Asian student issues here at UCF, as well as to build a community of accountable leaders. So we're really glad to be hosting.
Did you see my comment on the vaccine?
Please let us know if you have any questions, but we are asking that if you are not, if it is not a speaking time, please don't, please keep up on mute. Hey, everyone. Noreen, hi, I'm going to be giving you co-host permission, so please help me in people. Hello, everyone. Oh, I think I also have to give you guys, our candidates, the co-host permissions. Austin or Meg, should I give one of you the presentation or the co-host?
You can give it to Austin. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hi, Dylan. Should I give you the co-host permission?
Malachi has the presentation. He should be joining shortly.
Alrighty. You can go ahead and wait. Hope everyone.
Damn it. I don't fly.
Give it maybe like 2 more minutes before we start, but yeah, hi everyone. If you guys would like to start introducing yourself, at least like the names and like the positions you're going for, you're welcome to do that as well.
Absolutely. My name is Meg Hall, and I'm running for student body president.
And my name's Austin Wilson. I'm running for student body vice president.
Malachi's running real quick, but I'm Dylan Street. I'm running for student body president, and Malachi will be running for vice president with me.
yes, we appreciate everyone being here today on your Friday evening to join and just discuss student issues here at UCF. So once we start letting the candidates introduce themselves, please feel free to update the chat with your questions. There will be a designated question time that we get to them. But yeah, just let us know if we can assist or if there's any technology issues. Want to make this the best experience for everyone as possible with a virtual town hall. I'll just give it about one more minute before we can go and get started. How are you doing today, Dylan? I got to talk a little bit to Austin, Meg, a little bit early, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing fantastic. I actually just got done with work. I'm a peer nice mentor, so got to talk to some students and everything. But yeah, I'm ready to talk to y'all and get things rolling. Thank you for having me.
of course, Peer Nights. Would you like to share a little bit about that program to people here today?
Yeah, honestly, it's a really good program. So if you are a freshman, sophomore, and you're new at UCF, what it is you kind of sign up and you get a coach. And so then I'm one of the coaches, and so I help coach you through your career at UCF. And so whatever you want to get involved in, whether it is research or just joining a club, and we kind of go through that. It's a mentorship kind of thing. And the goal right now is it's a pilot program, so reaching out to as many students as they can, so then we can get kind of it rolling and having weekly meetings and establish that rapport with students. But I highly encourage reaching out. If you want to, shoot me a message and I'll help you all get a meeting with me or anyone else. And besides this, I can help you with your UCF experience.
Thank you. Do you know how much longer until Malachi would be able to join by any chance?
It says the Zoom might not be supported. Is it Malachi's having an issue joining the Zoom for some reason? I don't know if this is the link you all sent from Instagram or what it is.
By any chance, has he updated his Zoom to the most recent update?
That's probably what it is. I'll tell him right now.
I'll try resending the Zoom link one more time. Oh, actually, no. I think he has joined, actually. Hello. Hi, everyone. I think that's okay. We're going to have to get started because I know that everyone's pretty busy, but I'm going to add Malachi as a co-host so that you guys can share your presentations. But hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our town hall today. I kind of talked about this before, but I'm going to be introducing APAC. We're going to have some panel questions to our candidates, and then we're going to have an open forum from presidents in the audience. So without further ado, welcome. APAC was founded back in 2005. In 2004, there were various Asian American student leaders that came to discuss action plans with student government, MSc, and the Office of Student Involvement. They told us to create an RSO to further represent the APIDA concerns, as well as to unify under an umbrella. So with that, today we have 16 affiliated student groups, and we have since joined the Presidential Student Advisory Council, as well as the Student Government API Caucus. And so here are some current student issues that we face. I sent these to both of our candidates to review, but for those of you who are hearing of this for the first time, API students at UCF are not represented within the multicultural offices besides MSc, which only funds student programming. So there are no outreach or leadership programs under ODI or the Lead Scholars Academy or MASS, and we are hoping to see that better reflected in the upcoming years. But similarly, other student org issues, at least, is that Senate will only fund about 50% of an org's event, while as MSc has very limited funds to spare outside of their regular programming. So again, if your event costs $10,000, that's $5,000 that you have to raise yourself. But sponsorship hunting has taken a big hit because of the pandemic. A lot of Asian businesses actually, which normally sponsor our events, have basically taken a bit of a toll from the pandemic, as well as the rise of Asian American sentiment. So here you can see, you can go ahead and follow this link, which basically takes us to a report talking about the numbers of how we measure that. But yes, so there is a lot of nervousness, I think, by our student organizations as to how they'll be able to fund the upcoming years. And we hope that we can hear some points about that today. Also, other issues that face the Asian American student community is that there has been a rise of anti-Asian assaults, specifically targeting our Asian elders. So Stop API Hate writes that as of March to August, they received over 2.5K reports of anti-Asian assaults, and that's not counting what's been occurring between August to now. Students also experience high levels of distress with the recurrence of these anti-specific and anti-Asian specific violence. And yet at a most recent survey, we found that CAPS remains largely unutilized by the community members. So this is the context for today's meeting as to discussing what we as student leaders can do to further promote the visibility of Asian issues, as well as to build an accountable community. And so each candidate should have about 7 minutes to introduce themselves. So please go ahead and do so. We are keeping time. I'll go ahead and give that platform to Dylan and Malachi first. So please let me know if there's any issues there.
Yes, and if you could actually let me share the PowerPoint, is that what you'd like us to do right now within introducing ourselves?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. I have capabilities now to share.
Yes, you should.
Am I good? Okay. All right. 1 sec. Hold on. I'm using a different computer right now because currently the computer I originally had, it kind of crashed today. So work with me a little bit, but let's get this thing in presentation mode and we'll be good to go. Okay. You know what? Here we go. Okay. So good afternoon. My name is Dylan and Malachi is here as well. I was born and raised in West Orlando, Florida, and I went to Ucf High School. I'm a sport and exercise science major with a minor in sports business management. I was in Lead Scholars, Kappa Sigma fraternity, Student Government Executive Leadership Council, which is my background within student government. And then I'm a resident assistant for 3 years. I'm a peer nights mentor, as I mentioned earlier, which helps me allow to mentor students and really understand their needs and how we can make their UCF experience better, which is ultimately one of the big core reasons why I'm running and what I'm passionate about. Malachi, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm so sorry, I'm experiencing technical difficulties right now. I just got kicked out of the chat and had to come back on. But without further ado, my name is Malachi Mullings. I was born and raised actually in Miramar, which is close to Miami. So shout out to whoever's from the Miami area. I went to Miramar High School. My major is an industrial engineering major. My campus involvement is Lead Scholars. That's actually where I met Dylan, along with Student Government Leadership Council. I'm a proud member of the Untitled Chapter of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, a resident assistant as well for 3 years now, coming up now. I did some summer undergraduate research. I'm a proud brother of Progressive Black Men Incorporated. For some time, I was Mr. University of Central Florida, and I was a coordinator for the Fairwinds Alumni Center.
All right, so some of our platform highlights include advocating for the reestablishment of events on campus, advocating for intramural sports, as well as COVID-safe tailgates. And now these things are pretty hefty to loft for. And so a little bit of my background is I spent an entire season with UCF football. I helped write some of these COVID regulations and policies where people are standing in the locker room, where practice takes place, and exactly where bodies are going to be in order to have COVID-safe policies and understand where social distancing will take place in pods. So a little bit about that is I have the background. I can take these policies from UCF Athletics, which I have coordinated with Miss Mary Vanderheiden. And so I know exactly what it takes to bring back intramural sports, as well as other events, including your meetings, which would apply to you, as well as bringing back in-person events with meetings and chapter meetings and RSO meetings. And that's a little bit about that. Malachi, if you want to talk about this next platform highlight.
Yes, of course. And also to get more of a range of our full platform, I'm not sure if you did it before, but again, I got kicked out of the chat, I'm sorry. But I put a link to our full platform so you can get more information about certain things or certain questions on certain parts of our platform. But continuing, we would like to do the continuation of away watch game parties. It was a tradition that was, or an event that was created this year due to COVID, but we'd actually like to continue it. It was, we believe that it was a great idea, and it's a great way to, for students and alumni to come together to be able to support our football team, including tailgating as well as the away game party. We have great activities such as parties, barbecues, and performances from like local groups and within the Orlando area. And yeah, it was a great idea and something that we would like to continue.
All right. So we have our night market. Everyone has a small business here and there or a side business to take a part in. One of our issues when we were running, we were like, dang, where can I find a photographer? I'm trying to find somebody to take a picture of us, kind of make us look all good and everything like that. Well, we decided, okay, why don't we have a market where you have every single student with a small business listed under here. Now you have photography categories, you have hair and nails, you have, you name it, okay? Website design, down to mechanics, okay? So then once we have this, students can say, okay, like I need help with somebody to take pictures for me. I need a graphic designer. Okay, let's go through it. Okay, these are all the students who got it. So with that, it allows networking, allows students to really put their businesses out there and enable student small businesses. And this could even make or break your college career. In fact, like if you put money into your business and you start off big at UCF, you can expand more to other universities. And so this is something I'm really passionate about. It's almost like a night connect for small businesses for students.
So I see the time left, but we would definitely like to lobby to create a pedestrian bridge here at the University of Central Florida. A lot of schools up north, they have it. We would also be cooperating with the Department of Transportation as well for this matter. Dylan has had a personal experience in which he almost got hit. And I know for my council, the NPHC council in which I'm under for my Greek fraternity, the president of Omega Psi Phi unfortunately got hit and run on Alafaya. So this is very important because some of our nights have experienced death as well as other unfortunate incidents, and we feel as if pedestrian bridge is also just another addition to UCF that can be a landmark. Imagine driving up to UCF and like, wow, this is a pedestrian bridge, and just the entrance of what it would be like to walk into UCF. And so we definitely want to advocate as well as lobby for a pedestrian bridge.
All right, so we want to build a Student Union Minority Institute. And in fact, it's called Views from the Fourth. And so we want to prioritize the Student Union's fourth floor to provide a large, safe, centralized location for multicultural academic and support services. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, okay? As my perspective and my lens as a white student at UCF, I don't understand what it's like to be a minority on campus, okay? I just learned about 2 weeks ago what Black Wednesdays are. And see, that's something that I see as an issue. When I was toured through these offices, I didn't really understand that you all are like pushed to the side in a sense. And I can't speak for that. So it's something to learn on my part and continue to ask questions. And actually after this, I want to meet with some of you all so I can understand your struggles more, because it's all a learning process. And so one thing I'm passionate about though is having a safe place and a singular floor. I was told for Black Wednesdays specifically, they had to move to multiple locations. That's not okay. Why can't we're the largest university in the country. We have about 72,000 students here. Why don't we have a singular floor for students to congregate and feel safe in a safe place? And so another thing we want to do is work with Pride Commons and identify safe spaces on campus for the LGBTQ+ community. And as well as, it's not on here, but we want to go through and audit all of the policies for UCF. So let's say you have a rule for bathrooms. And so the gender is set for men. Okay, well, gender is fluid. And so, yes?
Thank you for your time. That was 7 minutes to you guys. But again, you guys can the platform points on their website. And again, you can also message them in this chat privately if you'd like. But I'll go ahead and let Meg and Austin to also share their platform. Thank you, Dylan, for sharing that.
Can everyone see the platform and the screen right now, just to make sure? Perfect. All right, Meg, would you like to get started?
Yes. Hey everyone. Okay, I'll put it in the chat now too, all of our information. Those are our cell phone numbers as well. So if you have any questions for us or anything about what we speak about, or if we don't get to something and you want to learn more about it, feel free to give us a text or a call. And we just want to work with you and be as accessible as possible. So we'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. My name is Meg Hall. I'm running for student body president. I am from St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm a legal studies major here at UCF, and I'm minoring in Spanish and creative writing. And I've been involved in a lot of different areas on campus through my sorority, moot courts, PAN Council. I did a legislative scholars program last year where I interned in Tallahassee for a lobbying firm, which was a really great experience. Austin and I are both on President's Leadership Council, and I've been involved with Nighthon as well. But my favorite thing that I've done on campus and my passion is really for student government. And I'm involved with student government currently. I'm on the executive branch as a part of the Sabrina and Stephanie administration. And I've seen a lot of positive impact being made so far. And I think that there's still a lot left to do. So Austin.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name's Austin Wilson. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I'm a double major in political science and criminal justice. I'm from Cape Coral, Florida, so Southwest Florida. I've had a variety of different involvements. Starting with freshman year, I was involved in student government, and then I became the assistant supervisor, then supervisor of elections. I'm currently serving as the director of advocacy for Habitat for Humanity, for affordable housing issues. Currently for student government, I sit on the Swipe Out Hunger Committee, the Sustainability Council, and the Scholarship Committee. And I'm also previously have been a part of Hearts for the Homeless as their recruitment director. And as Meg mentioned, we served together on the President's Leadership Council in making those input towards President Cartwright.
So the first topic we want to speak with you about is academics. Something we want to establish is a student government academic archive. This will be composed of two things. So first, it will be a bank where all of the syllabi from past semesters will be available. That way, when you're registering for classes, you don't have to wait till add or drop week to get all of the syllabi for your classes. You can see them ahead of time, so you know that you're making the best choices when you're registering for your classes. We also want to include, if you all remember at the end of every semester on My UCF, it always bugs you to fill out those little reports about your professors. We want to include those as well, because it's crazy that we spend so much time filling those out, and then that information is technically public record, but it's so difficult to access. So we want to make sure that's put to the forefront and available for students. We also want to focus on textbook affordability. Currently, there are talks in Faculty Senate about switching from an opt-in program to an opt-out program, which, because we're short on time, we'll just summarize. It would, in a way, force students to buy their textbooks from the bookstore, as opposed to Chegg, Amazon, Textbook Solutions, wherever you get your textbooks from. You'd have to go through a process to request to not buy your textbooks from the bookstore, versus the other way around, where now you make that choice to buy from there. So we want to put a stop to that too, because we want to make sure that UCF has the choice, that students are able to buy textbooks from the cheapest option.
Absolutely. And then another thing we want to do, we know this point has been recycled from years past, but we just think that shows the urgency of it, is the 24-hour library. We want to start off with a pilot program, essentially, of opening up to only 2 floors, because then you allow more socially distanced options for people who want to study and congregate with individuals. And then also TEDx UCF. TEDx UCF, I'm sure we've all taken high school and college classes where the professors and teachers throw on those presentations by individuals. We think it would be very beneficial for students to hear from across a bunch of different diverse disciplines from individuals across pretty much the nation coming to UCF as the hotspot for that. So that's what the TEDx program is about.
We'll just speak on in-person events very quickly. It's important to us that if RSOs or chapters want the opportunity to meet in person, that they're given the ability to do so. And there's a lot of different ways we can go about giving students this option. Something we really want to focus on is helping RSOs meet the requirements for hosting in-person events without having to go through all of this red tape. So we want to provide in-person event workshops to show the best process for requesting to hold these events. We want to expedite the approval process, so you're not waiting 2 weeks for a state form to be approved. And we want to combine the forms so that you're not having to fill out tons of paperwork before every single event. And Austin, if you would go to the next slide, we'll talk about diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, so first, this kind of is under an umbrella point we have, which is the executive outreach committees, which are essentially 7 to 8 different issue-specific committees that allow students who aren't currently in student government to actually get involved. And through the Interfaith Council, we will collect and have an application process or a selection process for any different religious RSOs who would like to join in. And these individuals will act as advisors and ambassadors for the executive branch. But also the great thing about it is being a part of student government under that umbrella, we can work together to partner to utilize both budgets that we receive to have and host bigger events. Cultural food options, this is one that has been also on various platform points previously, but again, it shows the urgency of why it hasn't been done yet. And so that includes making sure there's cultural food options currently with halal, but also specifically negotiating with Aramark. So, there's not this stone wall essentially where you're not able to reach out to small businesses and have them cater for your event, because we should be reaching out to the UCF community, not shutting them away from everyone else.
Absolutely. Another focus of ours is on partnering with Psac, President Student Advisory Council. We know that from our experience with PLC, how important this group is, and we want to make sure that that connection is made between student government and President Student Advisory Council, because this is an incredible group of students whose voices matter. And if they're speaking to President Cartwright about issues, we'd like to know those issues too, because a lot of those can be handled at the student level. So we want to make sure that that connection is thriving and that there's constant communications, that the most efficient way possible is gone about to make sure these issues are addressed.
Absolutely. And then I'll just touch upon the last two. So first, for LGBTQ plus recognition, we want to make sure there's able spaces for Pride Commons locations to be established on downtown, but also Rosen. Those students, need the attention, and they are UCF students as well. So we should be putting them in that same place. And then likewise, we want to make sure that students, they're now able to list their pronouns on web courses, but we want to go a step further and make sure these students can also be listed by their pronouns on the registrar's office as well, to help with any other university paperwork they need to fill out. We're good?
That was that.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're good. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, and so then we're going to go ahead and get into our panel questions. So again, thank you for both tickets to giving us that context, as well as what your ideas are and how we can also contribute to that. So the questions that we have are as such. I just realized I didn't introduce myself to everyone. So hi, I'm Adrian Lee. I'm the president of APAC. And after our panel questions, we will have opportunities for our affiliates as well as audience members to ask their questions. But for this, you can see that each speaker will have 3 minutes to respond to each question for each ticket. So our first one is asking, why is it important for students to just vote in the student government elections? I'll go ahead and give that first question to Austin and Meg.
Yes, I was so excited when I read this question. I'll just tell you, because voter engagement is something that I'm very passionate about. It's actually probably my biggest passion. I'm currently the governmental affairs coordinator for student government, and this was a big focus of mine last semester, was on increasing voter engagement and just kind of awareness about the 2020 election, both at the county, state, and national level. And all of that transfers to student government as well. It's important to note that these are influential positions. The president, student body president, would sit on the board of trustees as a voting member. You want to be really, really detailed in your research before you make your decision to vote, because this is a big decision. This is your ANSF funds being put to work. So really, these are your choice for who you're paying for these positions. So really, it's important that you make sure that your voice is heard. That's the best way to become civically engaged, is to vote. And no matter who you vote for, just voting makes you a part of the process, and it makes your voice heard. So really think about your wants and your needs, and figure out the best way to make sure that they're heard by casting your ballot.
Can I throw one more thing on that, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So personally, I had experience last year in the election commission being the supervisor and assistant supervisor. And I was able to see how many people did not vote. I believe around 7,000 people voted for the student government president and vice presidential election last year. And that's kind of daunting and very startling, because there's 66,000+ students at this university. Student government does a lot more than just allocate your Scantrons and host different events. There's a big student initiative budget that the executive branch holds that it can utilize to host and work towards different initiatives across the board with clubs and RSOs. Likewise, as Meg mentioned, she would potentially sit on the board of trustees as president, and having that influential position does mean, as the only student voting member, there's a lot that can be voted on, a lot that can be advocated for on that level. So overall, as Meg mentioned, voting is important because it's essentially the only way you can put your input into these initiatives through the student government.
Alrighty, and then Dylan and Malachi may also take that question.
Sure thing. So first off, I want to say thank you for everyone being at this meeting. And honestly, this question isn't necessarily for you all. It's for the students who are not at this meeting, right? So the question isn't why is it important to vote for student government elections? It's why is it important to participate, not just voting, but kind of actively voicing your concerns on what you want changed on campus. See, if you really want change, because every single demographic of students and clubs and RSOs, you have a different experience, okay? So voice that experience. And not only do that, but market the election, not candidates necessarily. You don't have to do that, but market the election. The purpose of voting is to have your voice heard, and so we can have a change on campus. But if only 7,000 students are voting in an election at the largest university in the country, that's an issue. And so that comes down to marketing. And so with our campaign, and I think in general, it's important to spread the word to people who are not in this meeting. So it's important to take points out of this election and say, okay, this is what I want changed, and voice your concerns, and then voting. Voting is the last thing you do. At the end of the day, it's extremely important, but the whole purpose of these platforms is to gain exposure for the points that you want changed and make a difference on campus. Malachi, if you have anything to add, go ahead.
Yes, definitely. To answer the question, why is it important to vote in student government elections, is everybody wants their voice heard. And when it comes to how that voice can be heard, it's essentially through voting. And in recent times, through the Black Lives Matter movement, through the recent elections that happened on a national level, there has been a shift and a paradigm, in a sense, in which voting is taken a lot more seriously than what it once was. And we definitely want to promote that you vote. It's important that no matter what community you're a part of, that your voice is heard to be able to govern the necessary things that you want put in place and in office. At the end of the day, you're voting for either Dylan and I or Megan Austin. And we're both great. We're all great leaders. You know, Megan Austin, they're great. We would like to think that we're great too. But at the end of the day, it's researching, being educated. And I believe that, you know, if you want your voice heard, it's important to vote.
Thank you all for your responses to student government, or basically participation in student government elections. As you guys have mentioned, there has only been participation largely on Greek, and I think it's all of us that really have that voice to enact the change we want to see, not only on campus, but within society as well. So both tickets have expressed interest in the creation of agencies, as well as more space. But what are the possible steps, actions, policies that will further promote it? Promote the Asian American, the Black, and the Latinx Agencies Initiative. And I'll go ahead and give that question to Dylan Malachi. 3 minutes.
Sure. I don't mind answering this, and I'll be a little bit more personal in my answer. I know that as a black male here on campus, I'm considered a part of the minority, and within my community, and what I can talk about, you know, there's a lot of things that we speak of that's not necessarily represented, and we would like to create a minority establishment council first. And what that council essentially is, they will be the representation of the minority population in the sense of, you know, Asian American, Black, Latina, Muslim, of all minorities here on campus. And we feel like as it's important that they come together and they express their problems and their grievances, in a sense, on what can be changed on campus, and in collaboration with student government, that we actually move towards these possible steps. We truly believe that at the end of the day, we're not necessarily going to say direct initiatives, but we can say that at the end of the day, it's about listening first. Me as a Black man, again, I can only speak on the Black experience. You guys can speak on the Asian American experience. Latin people can speak on the Latinx experience. And so what we essentially wanted to do is we want to foster a more inclusive environment so that we can be able to execute the things and the initiatives that the minority population here on campus has. And I believe Dylan has something to say as well.
Yeah, so I don't know what it's like to be Asian American at UCF. And I know there's a lot of xenophobia going on. And it's honestly, it's terrible. And I don't have to deal with that on a daily basis. And so I can empathize and I can listen but I will never understand what it's like to be in your position. And so with these caucuses that were created in the 52nd Senate, I think Malachi and I, we plan to sit on these caucuses and listen to y'all weekly. And it's a continuing dialogue. It's not just straight up, this is what we're gonna do. And actually, I know y'all are getting Asian American History Month passed for April. And so if we were to get in office, hopefully, fingers crossed, first thing we want to do is celebrate that and market that and really celebrate your culture and let UCF know, like, this is a vital population on campus and it's a huge deal. And so, but me personally, right, I can speak on what I will do, and it's just listening and learning, you know, just talking to Black UCF. That's not my community. And so, but I learned about Black Wednesdays, and you for sure, I'll be there. As soon as the next Black Wednesday is March 6th, I will be there just so I can see what it's like. And so I plan to do that for your communities as well. And that's really, at the end of the day, just listening and learning.
Alrighty, Austin and Meg can go ahead and answer that question as well.
Yeah, so I think, you know, there's two ways of looking at this question, and well, two different ways we could approach this if we were able to get into office. There's one, which is the EOCs and partnering to make an executive outreach committee that can be partnered and utilize funding. So say, for example, if APAC was under that, then we could partner and use half executive funds from the student initiatives, but also the half that you get potentially from Senate to host something like, for example, I know I attended last year, the Chinese New Year. That was through the Multicultural Student Center. That was a great event. There's a lot of great showcases at that event. And I think, you know, moving towards having those events is important, but also it's giving you the ability to kind of mobilize and move more. As vice president, potentially, I would sit on the agency and department strategic planning board. And it's important to note, this is the board that determines the first step of the way, whether or not someone's going to receive agency status. And so I think it's working to utilize that position on the board potentially and talking to different communities, APAC, you know, we talked to the BSU about this and also talking to the Latinx community about this, working towards making sure once we leave office that our initiatives essentially do not die with us, because by establishing potentially agencies, then we can move forward and having that long lasting impact. And so there's two different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, I think everyone had really great input. I know Austin mentioned it, and I heard it specifically in your question too, that you asked about agency status. And that's something that we've started to look into, not just because of this conversation, but because of a similar conversation we had with Black Student Union, where they asked for similar representation. It's something that we're looking into. We're going to try to see if it's possible. We're trying, because I agree that it's something that is necessary. It's crazy that student government positions get paid, but Black Student Union, y'all's organizations pay to be a part of these organizations. You know, you pay dues. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's something that we're looking at too. I know there's legislation in place. We're working with the senator to see what can be done. At this point, we don't have any further information, but I would love to keep you updated as we pursue this. Another thing that we spoke about that is kind of in the works, but I'm not sure how far this has gone either, is representation at the professional level. So we're speaking about specific offices within UCF that are handled by higher administration. So I know Austin and I have been meeting with a couple of representatives from different offices at UCF. We've met with someone from the HSI office just right before this meeting, and we're trying to meet with Dr. Butler too to speak about all of this more, but absolutely we want to keep pursuing this in the next couple weeks.
Alrighty, thank you for that. We crafted this question as we felt that many SG tickets before have promised agencies, and yet we have seen such little progress. So thank you guys for your honesty and your transparency there. So our final panel question before we move to audience and president questions will be kind of discussing the Board of Trustees. So when you are involved in student government or such organizations like the Presidential Leadership Council, which directly works with them, you get to know the functions of it or else be able to establish contact. But a lot of other students that, you know, just tend to join the RSOs or may not even be as involved don't really know what the Board of Trustees are or what they do. So how would you guys define the responsibilities of the Board of Trustees? And also, how can student leaders work with student government to bring awareness to the Board of Trustees about solutions for real hardships, especially in light of this pandemic? And I'll give that question to Austin and Meg.
Yes, Yes, absolutely. So to speak a little bit first about what are the responsibilities of the Board of Trustees, ultimately, this is a group of individuals who make policy decisions for the university and they oversee university performance. And as we mentioned before at the start of this, the student body president would sit on the Board of Trustees and would have a voice. I think it's really important that that individual, whoever it may be, speaks on behalf of the university whenever possible, and that communication is kept current and constant. That way, if there's any sort of issues happening at the student level that need to be addressed by higher administration, that's happening continuously. I'd love if we could bring more awareness of these meetings. I know they're live streamed on YouTube. I've sat there and watched them. I know, I'm sure many of us sitting here have sat there and watched them, but I still feel like there's not enough notice of when these are happening. And even though I don't know how they could be more accessible. They're right there on YouTube. There needs to be more promotion. That way students know not only that they can watch it on the live stream, but I would love to see more students speaking at them, even if it's over Zoom, in the meantime, until we return to normalcy, even if we have students Zooming in to speak at these board meetings. I think that would be important too. That would happen more frequently, because I've been hearing about things, Austin has too, and I'm sure Jill and Malachi are in the same situation, where in just the past couple of weeks of going on this journey of campaigning, we're hearing about issues from specific RSOs and organizations that we're going, how is this not fixed yet? We're kind of in our heads like, what can we do to help this be better? And if that communication was a little bit stronger between all of these students and Board of Trustees, I think we'd see change at a much faster pace than we currently are.
Absolutely. Now, I'll just add on to that. I think it's important to make the Board of Trustees more accessible. There's no reason just because, us three have the ability to sit on the President's Leadership Council that we get to have meetings with Chair C, Ken Bradley, individuals like that, and not have those same interactions be available to other students. I think, if whether or not this is student government sponsored or not, there should be some sort of coffee meetings of some sort. But also, I think, it's just important to promote overall those meetings, because ultimately the Board of Trustees is where the buck stops. They make the financial decisions for this university regarding policies and other contracts with potentially Aramark and other areas. And so I really think, recognizing the student body president is essentially the key to kind of that room, but bringing the students along with them when they get into that room is super important.
All righty, Dylan and Malachi, if you have your response prepared, go ahead.
For sure. And I agree with everything Meg and Austin said. They couldn't have said it better. Honestly, I love that answer and I concur with them. But as well, this is associated with our platform. We kept this in mind. And so when it comes to our platform, we want you all to be cited on there. And so when we get into office, hopefully, fingers crossed, everything works out. We come in there with a list, not just of ideas from us, because organically, I can't come up with these things. I don't know what it's like. But then when you come up with a list to advocate to the Board of Trustees saying, okay, all these student groups want this, and then we have an endorsed part on our platform saying, okay, I agree with this idea. So then when you have every single minority group endorsing a specific platform point, what are you going to tell me? No, okay, then give me an alternative when it comes to advocating for these issues. Collectively as a group, I think there's power in unity, and there's power in a group of students saying, this is what we want. The university can't say no to everybody. And so ideally, what it would be is when I get on the Board of Trustees, we can then talk to them and say, look, these are the things that students want from these RSOs. This is what make the UCF experience better, because that's what I care about. That's what I'm running for, is the UCF experience. And see, everybody here is golden on the Zoom call. I love it because y'all are paying attention, but it's getting people who are not in student government to understand this is important. And so it comes down to marketing. It comes down to spreading the word. The Board of Trustees does this. And so as an outside party coming into student government, I understand this. My friends, they're like, oh, student body president, whatever. No. Board of Trustees is a big deal, right? And it's raising awareness to that. And so getting past that hurdle and really marketing these things, I think, is important. And I love when they said live streaming this and making it easily accessible for students to see. Because I try to watch some of these YouTube links and I'm like, man, I cannot find these. And it's hard. And so really market the Board of Trustees meetings, put it on student government Instagram, put it on RSO Instagrams. Why can't we have every single RSO on campus saying, look, this is the Board of Trustees meeting. And then maybe we can, once we make it a thing, then we can say, all right, now we got input from this RSO today. And this RSO will be speaking today. It's all about advocating for UCF experience and making it better. And so not just me sitting on the Board of Trustees, but me being representative of you all and what you want. I'm just the vessel, okay? All I'm here for is to advocate for you all and learn and listen. At the end of the day, that's what student body president is here to do for the student body. Malachi, if you have anything to add, go right ahead.
Yeah, I know we're short on time, so I've got 30 seconds left. So if there's one thing to say is essentially our platform, our slogan, everything that we do, a new chapter is the voice of the people. And that's what we want to highlight. And that whatever that you have, anything that you want to talk about, anything that you may see as a problem, well, you can come to us, we can add it to our platform, and it will represent you no matter what. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the representation of all communities, represented and underrepresented, to be united as one as we move into a new chapter. So thank you.
All right, guys, that was great responses from everyone. So thank you so much for providing more insight into how the Board of Trustees functions, as well as the role of student leaders within that. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and move to our president and audience questions. So hope you guys are ready. But if you are going to be speaking, I ask that you raise your hand, and when it is lowered, then you can go ahead and unmute yourself and also put on your video. But please also introduce yourself if you're representing an organization or if you're just here to ask a question. And yeah, and then go ahead and share your question. You will have 2 minutes to share that question. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to that question. If there's any questions, just please let us know. But you guys can go ahead raising your hand so that we can see who's got a question. Does everyone know how to raise a hand? If not, please put it into the chat so we can try to help you. That's pretty hard. Okay, I think I saw Ian's.
Hi, folks. How are y'all doing today? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you well.
I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, cool. So, whenever I was hearing, the responses, it's the outside-in approach that most people don't quite understand, meaning like lots of students, they don't understand what happens within student government. And I'm a student government member, and, we do a lot of great work, but a lot of students don't understand what we do, right? How are you going to make sure that the word gets out there that, we have a survey going out? How are you guys going to make sure that that people understand what kind of work that we do, and making sure that students understand that we are here as a resource for them? Because also students feel as if student government is very elitist. Like if you look at our offices are brand spanking new compared to our OSI offices, which are very much older, cluttered, and clustered. So if you could answer that first.
Were you directing that at a particular ticket, Ian, or is that open for both platforms to share?
That's open for both.
Dylan and Malachi, you can go and answer that question first.
All right. So when it comes to executing and getting more information out there, I personally believe in that. When it comes to giving somebody information, give them as many outlets to access to that information, so there's no excuse. So whether it comes through the access through email, access through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we live in a world in which social media is a great tool. And at the end of the day, we can send, when it comes to information, we actually have new information coming up on our page. And how we're going to execute that is through the same way, to get as many people the information as necessary. So the stuff in student government, there's a lot of people that don't have access to that information. Well, something as simple as email towards the treasurer when it comes, or the treasurer of an organization when it comes to information regarding funds. Something as simple and direct as that. Yes, there's 600 organizations, yes, and clubs here on campus, but that's just the extra work that we're going to put in to be able to get that information out there. So there's so many ways, and we live with the most resources and the most access to information at any time. So there should be no excuses as to why somebody doesn't get something or why something isn't reached to a further extent. And so in this manner, that's how we're going to do it. We're going to do the nitty gritty work and the work that people don't want to do to get that information out there. And that's the end of my statement.
Go ahead. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ian, for that question. I think, it's important because I do have those same sentiments sometimes about student government. And I think really there's a couple different ways you can do that. I think first it's utilizing the resources that you have currently in student government. I think, senators are a great aspect of Senate, and having all those connections to those RSOs is really important. So I would say first, regarding information about different things, whether it's the executive branch doing it or student government as a whole, is making sure there's documentation sent out to all the various RSOs that senators are in contact with to keep them up to date about what's going on. Personally, though, I think also it's showing up to these different events, whether it's in person or via Zoom, to make sure they know student government has a presence. And when they have questions, they get answered. Ultimately, Meg and I have talked about previously making sure student government has a whole comprehensive presentation, better for not just normal orientation, but also for transfer students, because those individuals are also students coming to this university, and they're thrown in basically the deep end at when it comes down to it. So I think that is another way to do it. I know you're probably going to like this answer because obviously SBA did the whole COVID return to campus form, but also I think it's, doing a lot of those forms, because personally, I feel like that was very helpful for me in getting my opinion about what I want to see campus look like when I came back. So I think it's really utilizing the efforts that we have currently, but also implementing those new ones.
And very quickly, just to add on to that, a big part of our platform is centered around these EOCs, executive outreach committees, which the main purpose of is to expand student government. I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting in the office and someone kind of like wanders in and goes, I want to be involved. What do I do? And I wish we had a better answer for them than, oh, on Night Connect in a couple weeks, there'll be this application. There should be more than just SGLC for students to get involved, because that happens very quickly at the beginning of the year. We'd love for students continuously, hey, be able to come in and say, I want to be involved. And we say, awesome, we have a place for you.
Thank you. Noreen, you were next. So you can go ahead, unmute, introduce yourself, and then direct your question.
Hello, candidates. So just introduction of myself. My name is Noreen. I'm currently involved in APAC as the vice president, as well as being the student government senator who have established the APIA caucus within Senate and being an executive member in the Diversified Greek Council. So I actually have two questions for all the candidates. My first question goes to, how do you plan on making Bright Futures available to DACA and PPS students on a state level, considering how we are an HSI university? And then my second question, how do you plan on pushing the university to divest from Aramark, who invests in private prisons, considering how we've had Black History Month just this month, and about how a lot of our programs are based on uplifting Black voices? Thank you.
Yeah, so I would love, oh, is it okay if I go first? Adrian, I'm sorry, I forgot to.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I would love to speak on this. I got so excited because your question about Bright Futures for DACA students, I have something to tell you about. So there's this bill that's going through the Florida legislature currently. It's called SB 300. It was proposed by Senator Tadeo, and it addresses student eligibility requirements for state financial aid awards and assistance, which is very similar to Bright Futures. Through my current position in student government, I held a lobbying event just a couple weeks ago called Day at the Capitol, and this was included as one of our legislative priorities. So one of the bills that we really wanted to get passed. And how we kind of advocated for it was we held an orientation, different group meetings to practice our lobbying pitches. That way we were all able to advocate as best as possible to legislators to support this bill. Currently, I don't know if it's going to pass or not. I sure hope it does. We tried our very best to make sure it does. If it doesn't pass, we can try again next year, I assume it's going to go through again. So at the state level, it comes down to group lobbying, and hopefully we can expand upon our event Day at the Capitol and make group lobbying a process that we really encourage at UCF throughout the entire year. I know this state legislature only meets for a couple months, but these are senators and reps. They have the title for the whole year. So we can work with them earlier and later to make sure that this is advocated for.
And I think, I know I have a little bit of time left, but I think I'd note on the error mark issue, I think it's really making sure we bring all these, injured parties, essentially, whether it's APAC, who isn't allowed to receive these food from small businesses, or other individuals, and bring Aramark to the table and discuss. I know their contract is up, I believe, in 3 years. So I think what we could do from a student government level is either from the executive branch or even from the legislative branch, issuing a resolution that announces like we are divesting potentially from Aramark. I know that is a big word, and I know a lot of other universities, I believe FSU is actually currently trying to do it right now. So that's where I would go with that question.
That is it. Thank you. Dylan and Malachi, please go ahead and take 2 minutes to respond.
Sure thing. And so in transparency, I know that bill is being pushed through, but I personally, that you asked that question, I don't know the answer. But that's the thing is, I want to talk to y'all and understand what exactly you're pushing for with that. That's what is exciting about our platform, is that I don't know the answers to everything, but I do know that I can put myself in these conversations and talk to students and really understand, what is your take on this with Bright Futures? What exactly do you want with this? I've never experienced that personally. And so that's on me for not being well versed in it. But at the end of the day, I recognize that. And so, what I'm doing right after this call is I'm going to be researching this right now. And I'd love to talk to y'all after this and understand what it is like to go through this and what that means for Bright Futures for y'all. And really understand what you want done in this capacity. Because I think that sets precedence for our entire platform when it comes to, we don't know the answers to everything, and we're not gonna. But we know we can have the conversations to everything, because every student has a different story and a different experience. And so that's what I really want to get across to y'all. Malachi, if you want to add to that at
all. Yeah, again, I've actually did hear of the bill, but I actually do not know any other further information regarding it. But everything that Dylan said, we agree with. It's all about the conversations. It's all about the change. The person, we can advocate for that. And essentially, we don't necessarily have all the answers, but what we do have is the connections, as well as the understanding of creating a strategic plan, delegating to the necessary people possible, and to be able to execute with the best intentions of actual change and positive impacts, without a second agenda or something in return back. So we definitely would love to open the conversation later to all the problems that you guys may have, or any questions in general. And we would love to create that conversation, because at the end of the day, that's what creates change, is the conversation. After that, it's the understanding of what's next.
That is it for time. Thank you, guys. And I do realize it is running a little bit longer than 5:30. Are both candidates available to take more questions?
Absolutely. We're able to stay as long as you'd like us to.
Dylan and Malachi, is that the same for you?
Yeah, we're able to take questions as well.
Alrighty, so the next question is from Ramel Scott. If you'd like to introduce yourself and then direct the questions, please, to or both to take it.
All right, hello guys. So my name is Romeo Scott. I am the president of Delta Epsilon Psi. I'm part of the Diversified Greek Council. I also serve as the executive vice president of the Diversified Greek Council. So something that I've pretty much had to go through since I've been a student here and been on the leadership board is talking about pretty much diversity and inclusion and visibility within the Asian community, within the multicultural community on campus, especially Greek life. I know Malachi, you can probably attest to this. Like for MPAC, for example, was trying to get like banners, things like that to represent MPAC on campus, so more people know about the organizations. And like for similar matter, like APAC and like the Greek community does a lot, but a lot of people don't really know who we are. So how would you guys go about spearheading the conversations with diversity and inclusion in terms of like visibility as well on campus? So that's kind of directed towards both parties.
I don't.
Let Dylan and Malachi go ahead.
Did you guys want to go
After
first?
you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah, no, I definitely understand. And actually on our platform, we have some points that we actually got from DGC and NPHC regarding this. And that's the beauty of our platform, number one. Like, so just to to highlight something that you said about the banners of representation on our platform provided by MPHC and DGC is, I know that in different schools, they either use like trees or they have like a wall in which they do a painting and it becomes like a whole mural of all the fraternities and sororities within MPHC and DGC on campus. That's something that we have on our platform, and that's something that we actually want to do for MPHC and DGC. And so to answer your question, essentially, it's creating that conversation, having the openness and willingness to listen, as well as create the necessary change. Because at the end of the day, to some degree, you guys have an answer in your head, and giving and telling us, as well as citing you guys, would be able to change, not necessarily what can't be done, but what can be done. I could pass this to Dylan if he wants to, explain further.
Absolutely. So when it comes to DGC fraternities, I spoke with Lambda Phi Theta, and what happens is the requirement is 12 individuals need to be in that fraternity. And with that, with COVID and everything, it's hard to recruit. And so we want to drop that number down to whatever it is for an e-board. And so we have that cited on our platform. You can go through and look at it. And what it is that makes it more accessible. And then not only that, that solves a temporary problem. But from there, market these organizations more, make it readily accessible and seen at orientation, okay, at different events. And that's really the goal of all this, is to get more exposure for every single student group on campus, especially minority groups who have been underrepresented.
All right, that is time.
So thank you so much for this question. I think, what we'll talk about, we actually also had the privilege to speak with Lambda Theta Phi, and we actually then went and talked to Woody Joseph, the former director of OFSL, and he actually kind of explained with this 12-member requirement regarding that. Right now it's suspended, and it's going to currently be suspended until COVID is lifted from this university. And after that suspension, say potentially in 2022, then what's going to happen is you're going to have 2 more semesters from that to actually recruit more members. But of course, saying that isn't enough. What we need to do is we need to utilize student government resources to make sure DGC and MPHC and every other organization has the ability to utilize material such as the student government social media, or whether it's, personal flyers posted on different classrooms, to let them know that they're recruiting for membership. Because, having that membership requirement obviously is very, it was explained to us by Christian as a death sentence. And it's important to note now with those suspensions, we're going to, have a little bit more wiggle room. But overall, other than that, it's also recognizing, I believe NPHC has in the student union that representation wall. That's not enough. There needs to be more discussions. Obviously, other universities have these things in place to show more representation. We're one of the biggest universities in the country. Why don't we have that?
If that is it for the response, then we'll go ahead and move to box question. So if you'd like to introduce yourself as well as the question, if you are asking and direct it, please go ahead and do it.
Yes, I'm Bosch Ran, pronounced like the composer. I'm a part of APAC Leadership Committee. I'm also running for Senate in the College of Health Science and Professional Sciences. In recent time of the COVID, there's a lack of communication between student and student, as well as engagement, because everything is moving online. And I see that the both platforms have not able to touch on to the mental health section of the candidacy. That even when during this time, there's a high distress in Asian community, but there's this underutilized of the CAP. Then how do candidates be able to foster communication and the engagement back to the UCF community as a whole, and specifically for Asian community for their mental health? Anyone can take this first.
So first I'll speak upon it. And I have noticed, there has been a lot more lack of attention that has been directed towards CAP. I personally, I'm not, ashamed to say this. I've used CAP before for my issues and my problems that I faced at this university. And, having something as great as the counseling and psychological services, it should be advertised more. And then again, it goes back to the fact we have these resources at this university. We just need to do a better job of advertising them and getting them to these students. So I think what we could potentially do, obviously currently, Meg and I sit on President's Leadership Council. We potentially will email President Cartwright and see what kind of things at the university level can be due to advertise these things to specifically Asian Americans, if that's the focus that we want to look at, or every other student as well. So I think, it's also, partnering with them, if we potentially get into office, to host mental health awareness weeks, mental health months, potentially. There's a lot of different things that we can do, not just, in person, but also over Zoom. So I think that's something we have to look at.
Yeah, I think that was great, Austin. Just to add on to it, I'd love to see more of a presence for CAPS. I know through my position as an RA, we had kind of a experience set up where we spoke with CAPS, and they had some different representatives come and talk to us just about our experiences with COVID, with everything. It'd be nice. I know we did something similar too through student government after the end of the 2020 election, because just so many people had different emotional responses to that whole election. It was very difficult for everyone because it was so long. But I think that it'd be great if we set up specific events specifically for different groups to really be able to have the opportunity to speak with these representatives. And I also think one of my favorite events I would love to see brought back is when they had all of those dogs in CAPS and you walked through and every room had a different dog. I know that was so fun. I wonder if we can work with STEP to do something similar, because I know that they're a really present organization on campus. Even if the organization that wasn't doing it before, I think it was Pets by Judy in previous years, may not be as accessible due to COVID. Whatever we can do to create a wonderful experience like that, just for everyone to kind of see the opportunities and the services that CAPS provides.
Thank you. Go ahead, Malachi, you can take that question.
Sure thing. And so I actually just had a conversation with the student body president at Penn. And so one of the things we like to do is reach out to other schools and understand, what are y'all doing to advocate for mental health, right? Because I don't know personally. And so one of the things he suggested was, let's have a larger peer support group. Okay, when you make an appointment with CAPS, there's a wait period. And so why can't we have you waiting during that wait period for your initial appointment? You can go to a peer support group, right? And peer support is really the best way for college students. I work myself in a peer mentoring program where I coach students on how it is to become more involved around campus and this and that. It's very receptive when you can see someone who is going through similar things than you, maybe just a little bit older, but they understand what it's like. You can empathize better. Not only that, but we need to destigmatize mental health, right? Having podcasts, let's have some webinars. Zoom is this new thing that it's opening this realm where we can have these meetings like this, and you don't have to get out of bed and roll out into an official formal thing, right? We can have podcasts, we can have social media campaigns. Destigmatizing mental health is the #1 thing. And so really getting that awareness out there so students can understand, like, it's important to go to CAPS. It's necessary. And don't go once you have an issue. You need to go before you have an issue. You need to prepare yourself. And so just having these support groups and then social media campaigns, really, I think that's a huge thing. But Malachi, if you have anything to add, go right ahead.
Definitely. The crazy thing is, similar to Austin, I actually went to CAPS for some of my issues. And certain things that I had experienced myself. And I engaged in this group setting in which we were able to talk about, different experiences. And we ended up, realizing that we had a lot more similarities than differences, and we didn't even know each other. And so one thing that I find very important, especially among minority communities, is that talking and expressing opinions helps the community itself. And so we believe that that's important. You said what?
Sorry, that was it for your time. But thank you so much.
No problem. It's perfectly fine. Thank you.
And so we had a question from a member in the chat asking, from Cheska Magadadaro, who is of the Student Government API Caucus, asking, how do you plan to work in collaboration with Senate and the caucuses in particular? Dylan, Malachi, you can go and answer that question first.
Sort of thing. It's just putting that time in, okay? Going to these meetings weekly and really listening and understanding. I think the #1 thing is not necessarily me telling you what I'm going to do. You want to see what I'm going to do, right? And so I think I'm hoping after this meeting, I can have more meetings with you all individually, okay? Because you're already doing your due diligence to come to this larger body meeting. And so that'll kind of set precedence for us, right? Once we get into office, we want to have meetings with these caucuses. I know they were created over the summer, and it's a huge thing. We want to keep going. Conversation is everything. You can't just have one conversation and expect change, okay? It needs to be a weekly thing. It needs to be updated so you can have continual progression. Malachi, if you want to add to that, go ahead.
No, definitely. You hit the nail right on the head. Conversation, as I said before, for the last question, is important amongst communities, amongst different groups. And it's very important that we create that conversation. Again, actions speak a lot louder than words. So, watch us work and watch our actions, especially me personally being, a part of just a minority population, and having a Black caucus in a sense, and just being a representation for that, and listening and hearing problems and hearing certain things is very important. And so we definitely believe that. And so in answering your questions, communication and action are the two necessary things.
Alrighty, Austin and Meg, if you'd like to take that question.
Yeah, so I can speak on this first. I think what it comes down to is going a little bit farther than, I know we currently in student government, we have branch head meetings, which are regularly attended. I also know that we're doing social events, which allow members of various branches of student government to get to know each other better on a social level, which can help foster communication and collaboration. But I think going a step further than that is necessary to really build up relations between the various branches. I think that to establish a further connection, it would be really imperative to make sure that all of these committees and caucuses are being attended, not just by like president and vice president, but members of cabinet as well. The ones who are really like planning these events. I also love the idea of joint events. I know this is something that is currently going on in a couple different areas of student government. A great example is the Women's Empowerment Conference, which is being headed up by not only the Women's Caucus, but the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator within cabinet. I think that that's a great example of collaboration between these branches. I know I had a few instances where I worked with GAP committee for some of my voter registration events last semester, and we're going to be working on this debate coming up in a few weeks. So I think examples like that are really important, and I think to pursue those further would be really great for everyone in student government.
So I'm a little mad. She stole my answer. I actually wrote down Women's Caucus and actually Daniela Lopez, because that cross collaboration is really beneficial to have for Senate. So I think, again, it's making sure you're present. Meg and I talk about how when we want to get into office, we want to be there from 9 to 5. We want to be there to be available to talk to, any student, but also likewise any senator. There shouldn't be this bureaucracy or red tape that you have to, schedule a meeting here, schedule a meeting there. So ultimately, it's making sure we're transparent so we can all move forward together as one student government.
Thank you for your response. That is time. Sheila, you are up next. So if you'd like to introduce yourself as well as the question and direct it if you need to.
I'm Sheila Lay. I'm from Luna Interest Group. I'm the Executive Vice President, and my question's for Dylan and Malachi. So I saw you guys had the fourth floor plan wall for the increasing cultural diversity. So how do you plan to execute this fourth floor in the student union while following COVID precautions?
Yeah, so we've actually already been in talk with certain people involved in MASS. Jeremy Jones, he's one of the coordinators and directors there. And we've already been working a plan on how to make this work. And so essentially everything will be, socially distanced. Still, we'll follow certain measures, as Dylan said. He's had his experience within football, within just setting up for people within a large space, or a lot of people within a large space. So using some of those tactics and understanding the policies, highlighting safety and procedure, but still creating a large and as well as safe workspace. We've also been talking with the Multicultural Student Center. I know a couple people who actually work there, and we've just been starting conversation on how to actually do this and how to move ahead. And so we're doing the best necessary to be able to follow COVID procedures, but to be able to provide a safe space for everybody. Because at the end of the day, everybody deserves to feel safe, whether it just comes to, interpersonally, whether just being on campus, in general. So that's why our platform is set up the way that it is. And we definitely want to highlight COVID because, I've had, certain family members who've experienced COVID themselves. And so it is a serious thing. So we're not taking it lightly, but we still want to move and create this without necessarily preventing it just because COVID is a limiting factor. And I could pass it to Dylan if he wants to say anything else.
For sure. And it's really just getting this thing off the ground. Okay. Conversations with people, understanding that, yes, COVID is in here, but COVID isn't going to be around forever, And so, we can do what we can do with COVID, but planning, having these conversations saying, okay, let's make it a step further. And I know we only got a little bit of time left, but we're doing our due diligence to plan this out and make it as feasible as possible, because I 1000% believe it's feasible. And it's one of the things I'm most passionate about.
Thank you. Alrighty, Ian, I'm sorry, Megan, Austin, do you get a chance to respond to this question?
I don't know if it was directed, necessarily towards us. Would you like us to speak on potentially, or it's up to obviously?
Go ahead and share the question.
Oh, well, the question was about Dylan and Malachi's plans for the fourth floor. Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Adrian, so I'm not sure exactly what you said, but we can speak a little bit about our own plans to implement more diversity and inclusion within the university.
Oh, I'm sorry, Taylor, was it only to Dylan and Malachi that you had directed that question?
Yeah, it was, but if they want to, they can answer how they would plan to. Yeah, you guys can answer.
Okay. No, absolutely. Meg, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I think one of the ideas I'm most excited about is the Interfaith Council. This was something that I know has existed in previous administrations, and I'd like to bring it to the forefront again. I've attended events that I thought were really incredible, and I would love to see those kind of come under student government. I think that would be really wonderful. I know we have Hillel at Northview. We also have the Catholic ministry. I would love for all of these groups to be able to host events together for different students who practice various religions to be able to experience these events. And really, I think it'd be great because then we can use student government funds to help put some of these on.
Yeah, and then I'll just add on to that I think, it's really this important discussion about we are only in office for around, a year, 365 days or so. So there's only so much we can do, and what we have to do has to be lasting. So I think it's having those conversations and those talks about potentially establishing agencies. So once we leave, there is a self-sufficient system in place. So we don't have to, have candidates continue to put these things on their platform, because the fact is that so many of these issues have been on each other's platforms, not just ours, but other candidates before. It shows the sense of urgency that it needs to be done. And I think, if student government is going to hold any legitimacy, then it has to deliver on its promises it makes.
Alrighty, if that is it for response, Ian, you could go ahead and ask your question, please.
Hi, thank you again for the opportunity. Here's my second question to both of the candidates. So UCF is one of the largest institutions with, I think, the second biggest student body population within the entire United States of America. But UCF is also one of the institutions that receive some of the lowest amounts of endowment per any university, especially compared to our Florida universities. UF gets close to almost $3 billion with the state funding and out-of-state funding. FSU gets close to 1.5 billion, 750 million of that coming from state. Keep in mind, UF also gets around 1.2 billion from the state. My bad, 1.8 billion, I'm so sorry. So yes, we don't necessarily advocate right on the lines for that, but what are you guys going to do to try and pressure our Florida Board of Governors and our lawmakers and stuff like that to help UCF get to where it needs to be? Because currently we are in a deficit of teachers and professors. We don't have enough of anything to keep UCF growing. We have grown population-wise, but we haven't grown resource-wise. What are we going to do to make sure we get there?
So if I can speak on this first, I love this question because it goes back to lobbying, and it goes back to speaking with our legislators, our senators and reps at the state level, and continuously advocating for more funds for the projects that are most important to us. I know two of the biggest projects on campus that get funds at the state level are Ucf Restore, which is a program that helps not just UCF students, but the community as a whole handle post-traumatic stress disorder, and it helps veterans specifically, as well as Limitless Solutions, which is located right in Knights Plaza, which helps children who have experienced loss of limbs. So I know that we're getting funds for very specific projects on campus, but those are for the community as a whole. I would love to see more funds coming for UCF, for students specifically. And I think one of the biggest issues that we're battling when trying to get these funds is a lack of representation in the Florida legislature. If you look it up, I can't remember exactly how many at the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure we only have one senator out of 40 in the state legislature who is a UCF grad. And I believe we have less than maybe between 10 and 15 representatives who are UCF grads. I would love to see more representation of the UCF body in these higher positions, as well as continuously bringing students to Tallahassee when we can go in person again, as well as setting up Zoom meetings. These legislators are more accessible than ever now because of the pandemic, because of Zoom. You used to have to sit in a car for 4 hours and go to Tallahassee anytime you wanted to speak with them. Let's capitalize on the situation that we have currently, where we can have meetings kind of on a whim and start lobbying continuously. If we see something that needs to be funded on campus, let's write it down and let's try to set up a meeting.
And then I'll just add, I'm biased, but if we want to have, a fight in the Florida legislature, one of the biggest advocates we can have is Meg Hall, for all her lobbying experience, but also, work at Day at the Capitol, all the governmental affairs work she's done. So I think really having someone with that knowledge at the helm of the university student government would be immensely helpful.
Alrighty, that's it for time. Malachi, go ahead and get your response in.
Sure, I'll start off. And the way that the question was set up was essentially what we would do. Meg did a kind of, saying the same thing. We'll definitely lobby, but especially in that point that you just stated. Why is it that we're the largest university number-wise, but the fact that we don't have the resources to be able to provide for the numbers that we have, that's a problem. And again, that conversation is all about the conversation. As soon as you start the conversation, you create a strategy, and us, we also have, we can lobby, and we've also had experience within, the Day in the Capitol as well. But I'm gonna pass it off to Dylan to explain something new as well.
So my background's in athletics. Athletics gets all their funding from donors, okay? Why do we just have to get our funding from the state? Why can't we get targeted donations towards specific projects? That Fourth Floor Minority Institute, why can't we get prominent donors who are part of these RSOs say, you know what? I didn't have this experience. I didn't have that safe space at UCF, but now I wanna help fund that, okay? Let's think differently. Let's push the envelope. Let's utilize some of these things that are to be done and try to get money that way. And so I've had experience talking to donors through PLC as well as through football. I speak to these guys every day. I know John Uliano, I know McNamara's. And so not only that, but we can get smaller alumni and smaller donors. And then next thing you know, we can crowdfund these projects and really pull it through. We don't have to necessarily rely on the state and lobby from the state, because as that's shown, that hasn't worked previously. But in my experience, I know how to talk to donors, and I know what it takes in order to raise this kind of money. And so that's one thing that I want to bring to the table that's a bit different.
Great, thank you guys for your response. Dheeraj, you're up next on the question list, so please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. Well, my name is Dheeraj. Pronouns are he, him, his. I know the candidates definitely know me because of PLC, but I am also the president of the Indian Student Association. And my question is directed for the Dylan and Malachi campaign. So given your responses to most of these questions, many of the responses have been that you're not sure or you're unaware of a lot of these points we're addressing. And I understand that, and I think we all agree at APAC that conversation is very essential to developing and just having those, programs instituted and whatnot. But we've been having these conversations forever. And we've been talking about the same things forever. And there's just been no reception of the messages we're trying to say. But my question boils down to, how will you ensure me, the common student voter, that you're aware of my identities and you're aware of the struggles of the communities that I'm a part of by the time that we have to vote in 3 weeks? Because it seems a little counterintuitive to not understand a community before campaigning for them.
Sure thing. And that's a completely relevant question. And so that's what campaigning is for, But previously to this, I didn't have experience as far as reaching out to different groups. My involvement has been in just about every department on campus. But when it comes to specifically your group, that's not in my realm, okay? But now it is, and now it's my opportunity to talk to you. And so we can schedule a meeting after this and continue to talk and have these conversations. But as far as our platform and understanding that we're going to advocate for the common voter, it's saying when we get in this thing, we're going to sign on that piece of paper, okay, on that platform saying this is exactly what we're going to do, and that is our contract to you, okay? That's why we have a student-initiated platform. You can't come in there with all the answers. I'm not a perfect human being. I don't organically come up with these things, and my UCF experience hasn't been that, okay? So I can't make up for something that I haven't had, but what I can do is I can say I'm open, and this is what I'm doing to advocate and have action towards getting these things towards you, if that makes sense. Malachi, if you want to go ahead a bit more.
Yeah, and so just to speak on the student-initiated platform, that's why it is set up the way it is. Essentially, we don't have the answers, and we sometimes, we don't have we don't have the answers for everything. And so the initiation of the platform, it starts with you. What is your problem? What are certain things? And we can create that conversation and come up with solutions to those problems. And then we can come up with solutions that are direct, that are reasonable, that are realistic. At the end of the day, I'm a Black male. I'm vice president of Progressive Black Men. I'm in an RSO that is underrepresented, and we don't get the necessary funding and necessary things that are important to us. And that's unfair. So I can understand where you're coming from, and that's why I always talk about the realistic solutions, because we can create these realistic solutions with this conversation and strategy and execution, because that's all the executive cabinet in general is planning and executing. So let's plan a meeting, let's talk about it, and let's create these realistic solutions that are necessary for everybody, for all communities, underrepresented and represented. And hopefully that answers your question.
That's it for our time. Dear, did you have another question?
Yeah, I definitely did. Thank you for that response. I really appreciate it. Secondly, my question is about your plan to combine the Multicultural Academic and Support Services Office with MSc and SJA under one entire department. Could you, one, elaborate on that? And secondly, could you share how that would affect the ASF funding for MSc and SJA specifically? Because I know that the Multicultural Academic and Support Services Office gets grants and loans from different state and federal departments based on what populations they're specifically serving, like Dreamers and DACA. So could you elaborate a little bit on that plan?
Yeah, so essentially, SJA and MSc will be moving essentially with our plan. MSc will be moving to the 4th floor along with MASS, or the Multicultural Assistance and Student Services. So it won't be SJA moving along with it. SJA will then be established as a safe place in its totality, because it will no longer be shared with MSc essentially. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Essentially, they'll be separate. So to clarify, SJA will not be moving up to the 4th floor with our plan. They would have that entirety of the space to use, and that space itself will be created for a safe space for the LGBTQ community, or one of them. So that's the clarifier question, and I can give it to Dylan to provide more information.
For sure. So these offices are going to remain in the same spot. We're just adding a whole new floor specific to the Minority Institute for the 4th floor. And Diraj, go ahead and text me, okay? You got my number. And so if you feel like we're not necessarily competent in understanding these things, then give me a text and let's talk, because what we do every Sunday is we add these points to our platform, okay? So we'll get exactly what you want on there, because our platform is for the students and we're continually learning through that. And throughout. This is just starting precedents, to be honest with you.
Alrighty, and so our final question for today will come from Trudy, and that will be it for our time at the town hall. You guys have the phone numbers, you guys have the website, so please go ahead and use those to forward more questions that you may have. But Trudy, go ahead and take us home.
Hi, my name is Trudy, and I'm representing ASA, the Asian Student Association at UCF, and I'm the fundraising chair for this year for ASA. And my question is directed to Dylan and Malachi. My question is about the role that SGA plays in rent relief for students at UCF.
For sure. And so as far as rent relief, we understand that student government has a small role in that and helping with that. And so we want to continue to expand that program. We want to work to get more money and more funds and more awareness towards it. All of this is raising more awareness towards students to understand that, yes, you have these things, these are accessible to you. And so our administration, we really want to focus on marketing these things, making the student body aware. Because if you go back to the people voting in the election alone, it shows that students aren't aware of these things that student government does. And so that's the first hurdle. Get over that, make more awareness, and then talk to administration. How can we enhance this? How can we make this better? And then that brings in our background, my background when it comes to talking to donors, saying, look, you know, when you were in college, you might have experienced this. Let's put some funds towards this. Let's get some donations and thinking differently, okay? Let's do it a different way and see how we can get more funding to these things. So Malachi, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I was actually a part of the Student Government Campus Inclusivity Project, and they actually did exactly the execution of the question that you just asked. And one of the things that we actually wanted to do is extend the Campus Inclusivity Project in collaboration with what we said earlier with the Minority Establishment Council. So essentially, that's what a part of the Minority Establishment Council would be. It would be a part of the Campus Inclusivity Project.
Was that your response? You guys still had about 30 seconds left.
Oh, we're good.
Alrighty, guys, that was it for today's question. Thank you to both candidate tickets for sitting through all those questions and joining us today to further encourage more students to come out and vote for the elections. So here's the contact information for Dylan and Malachi, Megan Austin, as well as our own organization. But you guys know where to direct your questions from now on. And I see that they just added their website and phone numbers again. So these are the direct contacts. Dylan and Malachi's was also above there. So that is it for today. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. We're looking forward to hearing any other questions you all have.
Yes, thank you, Adrian. It was good to see you. It was good to see everyone. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for your time. And we hope to see you as we create a new chapter here at UCF.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. And reach out. We want to have these conversations and get your points on our platform. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you at elections.
Definitely. Thank you.